have changed. They aren't the same beings, but they kind of cycle. The way I can describe them is everyone has spirit guides of one form or another. These are my spirit guides. They tend to be advanced beings. Some of them used to be human. Right now, I don't know what they are. They don't seem to have a form. They're just kind of like a disembodied consciousness that communicates and shares information. And
Does that worry you though, Kaedrich? Because if it's something that appears to be something at one point and then slowly begins to reveal that that is not in fact what you're dealing with, does it worry you that it might be something more nefarious, something that's been slowly gleaning you, romancing the stone into what they want, and then the reveal?
That is a very, very fair question, because working with people that have attachments of various sorts, things that we need to do, spirit releasement work or entity clearing work, they attach via a slippery slope. Hey, it's okay to do this. Hey, it's okay to do that. Hey, what do you think about doing this? And then the next thing we know, the person is acting in a way that is out of character for them. It's not normal for them. And we have to do some extra work to do some of that clearing. However, I have a kind of a litmus test that I work with beings and entities of all kinds. And this is what I tell clients all the time and students, that if you get information that you think is from a higher source, even if you think it's higher self, push back. Say, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing it. And if that entity is like, okay, that's fine. It's your free will. It's your choice. Do whatever you want with that. But maybe they're subtly persistent. If it's for your benefit, they're saying, hey, it's still a good idea. Think about it. And you push back, say, no, I'm not doing it. That's something you want to work with. But if it's something that gives you an idea, a notion of something to do, and you're like, no, that doesn't sound right. And they're like, no, you have to do this. Do it immediately. If you don't do it, here's a consequence. Here's an urgency. And they really kind of push with like a sense of anxiety and high energy level. They're getting you to do something for their benefit because they don't have time to wait for you to decide. They don't care about your free will. And so working with the whisperers, we've had knockdown, drag out fights over things where I'm just like, no, I need this information. I need you to communicate in this way. I need you to do that. And they're like, no, we're not doing this. Or, they will always subtly push back, but they will never force. And so that's one of the things I'll tell people to do is no matter what you're working with, even if you think it's grandma, because chances are likely it's grandma coming by to say hi, but test and validate, push back a little bit. And if it's a higher level benevolent entity, to them, they're like, okay, fine. You'll pick it up when time comes. Not a worry.
Well, Kaedrich, people hear things. People that are dealing in a sense of depression and anxiety will often feel that they are being influenced by a voice. And sometimes that voice can be very influential, can be very direct about, what, this lifetime is not good for you. End now. We'll restart, we'll recalibrate and bring you back into a better life. So I'm just thinking through this for people, having dealt with my own depression and anxiety over the years and feeling of self-worth issues and being 16, 17 years old and having that call that maybe it's best if I'm just not here anymore. I was so lucky, Kaedrich, and a lot of people weren't. There was another voice that came in over it, a totally unexpected voice that dragged me back out of the dark and made me feel not so alone, but not everybody gets that. I want people to really hear what your message just was, is that push back on it. If it's telling you something, first of all, anytime any source is telling you take your own life, no. That is not something benevolent. That is not something here to help you. That should never be the answer from the other side, to let you reboot, restart. You're not a computer system. You're not a simulation. So let me just get that from you, clarifying. When you get these messages and they might even seem to, okay, back off, but come back a little later and tell you, are you sure, Kaedrich? Because, look how tough things are right now. Maybe it would be better if you came back. I just want people to know that the message you're saying and the things that they may be perceiving are two different things.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Absolutely. I'm going to talk on two different points on that because it's very important that we address this. In the afterlife, in the spirit world, reality is directly shaped by our emotional state. If we go over there in a distraught state, if we go over there in anguish, the reality around us gets created in that shape of that anguish and distraught. And it creates this feedback. It doesn't mean it's permanent. There's a way out. There are people that will help you work through that, but it's difficult. It's challenging. When you're here in the flesh, even though it sucks sometimes, and I've been through a dark night of the soul, it sucks sometimes that you want to get out of here. It's easier to do that here. You can shift your emotions here. You can get the healing here. You can do the shadow work here. And when I was in the dark night of the soul, I wanted to get out too. I wanted out. I'm like, let me teach what I need to teach. Let me write what I need. Let me get out of here. And the whisper said, no, 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 no. You have to stay. You have to share the information we're giving you. And I'm like, great, let me teach it. They're like, no, you have to apply it to yourself. You have to show people this works. The messenger has to be the message. You can't leave here. And so that's my message to everybody else. They're not going to pull you away. A guide, a teacher is not going to try to get you to go to the other side. They want you to heal here. They want you to do that work here, not there. There is no reset button. If you go over there prematurely, you're going to come back here and have to go through all of that again because you have to do the healing here. So don't listen to those voices. Your real work is here. Push back always on that one, and don't let those voices win, because they're just trying to get the anguish and the sorrow and the bad feelings out of you for their own benefit.
Now, next hour, we are going to talk about shadow work. We're going to talk about some of this element as well. So it's a kind of an interesting opening for that, but we do have to take a break. When we come back, I know you had another point to make regarding this and talking about how to kind of delineate, how to understand the messages that are coming through and how to work through them for your better interest, for the spirit realm, whatever that energy might be, your guardian angels, your family members, elementals, right? There are so many different things that seem to be out there trying to get our attention to help us and to help mankind, but we need to tune in and learn how to listen to the right frequencies. Kaedrich Olsen, our guest. All right, there is no veil. That's a big concept for people to think about. And we were just talking to you, Kaedrich, about the fact that these whisperers, these guides that have come to you have kind of changed the way they appear and the way they are not confrontational, but the way they bring forth their information to you. My question to you was, how do we know if they're not changing, that they're not something more dangerous, that they're not something that can be affecting us? And I know you were talking about pushing back on things that they say. Truly benevolent, helpful energies and spirits will back off. Because you do have free will. Something dark is going to keep pushing because their agenda matters now. For the other one, they're like, Kaedrich, are you sure this isn't a good idea? Let's reconvene on this, my friend, right? And they're trying to inspire you as opposed to bully you into these situations.
Correct. The best way that you can tell is the primary mode of communication for all spirits. I don't care if they're a low-level bottom feeder, like a thought form, or if they're an ascended master, archangel, whatever you want to call them. Their primary mode of communication is emotion. So we all have a clear empathy. We all can feel the emotions of other people. We can all tap into the emotion of these beings. And when you feel an uncertainty, when you feel like something just doesn't feel right about it, like it's drawing out a sense of fear, a sense of urgency, a sense of anxiety, that's a pushback. But if you're feeling a sense of comfort, if you're feeling a sense of connection, that's what you want to go with. I'll give you sort of a middle level example. There's a lot of talk around in different circles that's not really your grandmother coming by to say hi. That's really a demon in disguise trying to fool you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the spirit world, there is no location. There is no time. None of that. Everything exists everywhere all at once, continuously. And if you get that feeling of closeness, you feel like, wow, grandma was really wonderful. I was just so close with her. And I feel like that sense of wow and joy, that's really grandma. That's really there. But if you're getting the sense of like, ooh, this grandma wouldn't act like that. She wouldn't say that. But yet she's identified. That's not grandma. So trust your emotions, trust your intuition. And then you can engage in further communication and better understand what the motivations of that entity are.
I've told people that for a long time, right? When they're so clear on, well, I don't want to talk to a medium or a psychic because they're divining the devil's work, right? It says so in the Bible. And I always say, I have been to hundreds of gallery sessions and psychic mediumship readings. And I've never once heard, Kaedrich, your grandfather is here, your grandfather Burl, and he wants you to know to cut your beard. You look like a goofball, and your life is not even worth living, Kaedrich. As a matter of fact, he's embarrassed by who you are. I have never heard them talk down our physicality, our mentality, our direction. They may say, Kaedrich, I'm worried about you. I think you're going in a direction that's dangerous, and you need to take care of yourself. But the messages always seem to be coming and centered in a place of love. And I tell people that if you go to these gallery sessions and hear these messages, I defy you to tell me that they're not coming from a place of love. They're so helpful. They're so loving. They give closure to people. And if it ever gets to the point where something starts talking to you negatively, then you can pretty much assume, well, this is coming in. This is not who I think it is, right? But we believe, we kind of have this comfort level, Kaedrich, that we're separated. The veil is thin, but there is this amorphous thing between our existence and what comes next. But your belief is, and I know this is going to be a bitter pill and jagged pill to swallow for many who have been involved in this field for a long time, but that's what this show is about. Expanding our consciousness, opening our minds to other theories and beliefs and hearing them. There is no veil. Talk to me about that.
Exactly. You've heard the phrase that we're spiritual beings having a human existence. I actually reject that. We're spiritual and physical beings having a dynamic existence. We are both spiritual and physical. This is why energy healing works. This is why sound healing works, why manifestation works, is because we are both an energetic entity and a physical entity. So is our world. Everything around us not only is physical, but there is an energy quality to everything. And in that energy quality, entities and beings exist. They are just as normal as animals walking through the park. They're just as normal as people walking down the street. They're just as normal as a stranger popping by and saying, hey, how are you doing? Or a little kid who gets lost and says, hey, can you help me find my way? We are coexisting in a paranormal reality. The paranormal is normal. The supernatural is natural. It's just like going down to the local park and seeing a squirrel hanging out in a tree. You can feed that squirrel. You can watch that squirrel. Great. But if you mess with a squirrel, it might bite you. So, be respectful,
Right.
So because we are the spiritual and physical being, we have our physical senses, hearing, taste, touch, sight. We also have our subtle senses, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairgustance, clairsentience. We are all born with those abilities. These are a natural part of our world. And what we consider to be the veil is just our willingness to tune into that subtle side of life, or to tune out. And then we give ourselves excuses. It's midnight, it's 3 a.m., it's Halloween, we're in a graveyard. But no, it's not true. You're open and available all the time. You are the veil, whether you
So
choose to tune or not.
this reminds me of, like, I have friends that are tarot readers. I have a wife that is a tarot reader, right? And I also know she's very sensitive. And I talked to my tarot friends and I said, let me ask you something. I listened to your reading that you just did for that person. And I think you don't need those cards. I think those cards are a crutch for you so that you can say, oh, this isn't for me. This is coming from the cards. And this is, your dynamic with the cards. And most of them had admitted, yeah, you're right, but it is an easier place to lay blame or to, put it on there. So the veil, do you think the veil is something we tell ourselves for comfort, that, well, there's something that separates us? We can keep that wall up and not face that negativity. Is that more along the lines of what you think the veil actually is?
Exactly. It's a metaphorical construct that we can use to tune or tune out. I still use it in seance. And by the way, I don't do just seance where I'm like a gallery reading. I involve everybody. I teach people how to do seance. And when we're in that seance and we talk about opening the veil, parting the veil, it's a great metaphor. It's a great psychodrama storytelling metaphor where people go, oh, the veil's opening. I guess I can tune in. And you realize it's just a metaphor. So now just do it everywhere. Maybe you get a quiet time at home and you're feeling comfortable and relaxed. Oh, I'm parting the veil. I'm tuning in. Ooh, I'm feeling something interesting in the room. Who's here? We can do it. We all can do it anytime we want to.
It's similar to people that are metaphysical healers, or when you're going in to protect yourself. Envision yourself surrounded in a bubble of white light or golden light, deflecting negativity. There are holistic and metaphysical practitioners that will tell you to wear mirrored jewelry. The concept being that negativity will be deflected back, which again seems more of a mental construct, right? The concept, you're giving yourself tools to feel better, right?
Yeah.
The crucifix, there's that great scene in Fright Night, right? Where he holds up the cross and the vampire reaches over and crushes it and goes, you have to believe in that for it to work, right? So
100% correct.
okay, we're giving ourselves that safety net. But it's important too, I think, to have that. But it's okay to realize the veil is a construct that we put in place, like the bubble of protection, like prayer, like things. We're setting an intention is basically what it comes down to, and keeping ourselves somewhat safe, somewhat grounded. When we come back from the break, I do want to take it back for a few seconds to the beginning of the conversation about how you were a young boy and these things began to approach you. To me, that seems almost unfair because it singles you out and it might make you more of an outsider. We'll talk about that next.
Hey everybody, it's me, Bigfoot, and boy do I have something to tell you. So there I was, deep in the forest, minding my own business, snacking on berries, avoiding tourists, and trying to stream the live video of the Paranormal 60 podcast. Notice I said trying. But thanks to my old cell carrier, no signal, or slow and spotty at best. And worst of all, the astronomical bills. Now, I might be a magical beast, but I still got a budget. That's when I stomped my way over to Mint Mobile. Man, that Ryan Reynolds is dreamy. And Mint Mobile plans were starting at just $15 a month. Mint Mobile gives you premium wireless service on the nation's largest 5G network. Yup, even works here in the woods. Don't ask how. I know nothing of your human sorcery or satellites. Either way, now I can FaceTime the Chupacabra with zero lag. You ever try explaining roaming fees to a Wendigo? It doesn't end well. Mint Mobile lets you keep your own phone, your own number, and all your contacts, so I didn't even lose Mothman's digits. Plus, no cryptic contracts or shady surprise charges. I use Mint Mobile, and if you've seen my footprint, you know I don't make small decisions. So listen, humans, this summer, skip breaking the bank, and you're back hauling in another overpriced bill. Head on over to mintmobile.com/P60 and start saving like a legend. That's mintmobile.com/P60. There's a link for it in today's program guide. Oh, and here's the legalese. Upfront payment of $45 for just 3-month 5-gigabyte plan required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for the first 3 months only. Then, full price plan options are available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Did you know that radio just got a little extraterrestrial? That's right, Dave Schrader is back on radio with the Paranormal 360 every Sunday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. Central on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station. Just download the Odyssey app and look for the WCCO logo, follow the station, and listen live. That's the Paranormal 360 on WCCO AM 830, an Odyssey station.
Making this connection seem even more fake, right? Why target a child?
Truthfully, every child is targeted in that sense.
Right.
Because when we're kids, we don't know to shut off those abilities. We don't have the shame or any of the ostracization that comes with using those abilities embedded into us yet. And so very, very, very many times the imaginary kids that our children are talking to aren't imaginary at all. It's just we can't see them. We can't interact with them because we've closed off the veil to ourselves. But the kids don't know to close off the veil. They're there. And I do think there are people, similarities attract and perpetuate. So when you're ready, the teacher shows up. When the student's ready, the teacher finds the way.
So it doesn't matter the age, right? Because if time means nothing on the other side, what they're seeing is just simply the soul of Kaedrich Olsen. They're seeing somebody who's ready for this learning. It doesn't matter age. They're not seeing you as a 7-year-old boy. They're seeing a soul prepared and ready to be delivered, to give this information.
Exactly. Growing up in the house that was haunted, when I was very, very young, my parents went to a spiritualist church, and then they stopped for a while to try to be normal and went to a Lutheran church. And then when
As a Lutheran, I have to laugh, but okay, go ahead.
yes, I understand. I do understand. But as I was still a kid, I was starting to tell them the communications I was having, the visions I was having, and I could see the look on their face when they went, we got to go back to our old church again. And it was the spiritualist church, where it's your typical Protestant church, but every sermon ends with 1 to 3 trance channelers going up to the podium and doing trance channeling. And then every Saturday night in the church basement was seance. And so I
Wow.
got support at a very young age. I got acceptance. I did have occasional person to saying, "Oh, a child shouldn't be talking to spirits," but that was their fear. That was their shadows they were trying to project. But my parents were very open and accepting. They were allowing me to do that. So I was able to share what I was learning with the people. Yes, it made me ostracized as a kid because the other kids didn't understand it. They thought it was funny. I was in school in the 80s. So even just meditating, I got laughed at. But that was my normal. To me, I didn't understand why these kids couldn't see and communicate with these spirits that are everywhere. I understood why they were afraid of it because of the movies, and all of the TV shows were scary as
Our
hell.
perception.
Bad. Oh, and even I had to fight my way through that to get over that because the movies weren't reflecting my experiences. But no, it was just a normal part of my upbringing. Let's put it this way. It was so normal that when my children got into their early 20s and moved out, they both reached out to me and said, "Dad, how do we call spirits into our home? This place is so empty. It's so quiet. We need that energy. We need those spirits back. How do we do that?"
That's beautiful, right? I mean, that's a really interesting element to that I would not have thought about in the past. I mean, I've walked into places that I'm like, I feel this place is devoid of any energy, right? And it's not that it's draining; it's just that there's nothing. And it's interesting to know that they lived in a way that they can sense when there is not that energy present. So, what a powerful, powerful end of that discussion. Now, let me take you then a little bit further. Okay, so the veil, as we know it, is not a construct that physically exists. Or metaphysically exists. It is more of a brain construct. It's more of a conceptualized idea of there has to be something between us. But we hear of places that have portals, that have vortices, these openings, these rifts. So how can there be an opening and a rift if there is nothing there to open or rift?
It's just like in the physical world. There are some places where there are more people and some places where there are nobody. And it's the same way in the spirit world. And I do think there are some energetic qualities. Like if we have areas that have a lot of quartz and quartzite that is in the ground, a lot of granite, that does seem to be something conducive to building up more energy. And we have a buildup of more energy, you're going to have more entities popping in and out. The Conjuring House, there's something there that's bringing spirits through big time. So there are definitely
Well, and
very
for our skeptical listeners right now, it's called the piezoelectric phenomenon, and you can look it up. Science knows of it, that under pressure, that some of these crystals and stones do release an energy. And does that energy, in fact, work as a way to feed the spirit element or allow spirits in, like a crack in the foundation of your home where the rainwater comes in, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It just serves as like a nexus for spirits to come and go and to pass through. And then other areas just going to be devoid of that for whatever reason. I don't know. It's still one of the things I have to figure out. But you're right. There are some places more active than others.
Why is it dangerous for us to believe in the veil?
I wouldn't say that it's dangerous. It's
I need you to say it's dangerous because that's how I opened up the show.
the real danger is cutting yourself off from a natural part of who you are. It means not living your authenticity. It means not being a whole being. And if you're already here listening to this, you've got an attraction to this. You've got a curiosity. And so keeping that veil locked keeps you locked up and keeps you closed down.
I think I'm now going to identify as Psy Curious. What do you think? Can I get a t-shirt that says, "Hi, I'm Dave and I'm Psy Curious"? Challenge yourselves. Put yourselves out there. We're going to come back. We have one more segment. We're going to be talking about the veil, the construct, the conception, and how we can make communication safely. What can we do, though, to put a boundary between us? Are words powerful enough to do that? Do we need to visualize? Kaedrich Olsen, our guest. I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am. Kaedrich Olsen, our guest. We're discussing the phenomena of the veil, the concept of the veil. Some people are born under the veil. They're born with literally part of the placenta over their face. And, some see that as strangulation or, something that could cause ill effect on us being born. But many people believe that if you are born with the veil over your face, that it gives you more power and abilities, right? And I wonder if that's more of where the veil originally got its anchor, this thing that separated the life from the past life, from where it came from to this life. There was still something that separated them. And that gave the concept of what it is that separates us between being alive and being dead, being Schrodinger's cat, right? At this moment, that child is alive and not alive at the same moment.
I like that. I never fully thought of it that way. I know exactly what you're saying. Children still born with a caul around them, with the veil on them. And they were considered special children because they were 1 foot in each world, living each way. And to call that the veil, I never thought of it that way, but thank you. That gives me something new to ponder. I like that.
Please ponder away, good friend. Ponder away. This is exciting to me when we get a chance to talk about different elements of this. But people that want to communicate, Kaedrich, that they want to be open but are fearful, walking in a place of fear. Another point I'll bring up from Jeremy Renner's book, and I don't mean to keep pounding this, but when something strikes me, I want to share it with people. He talks about fear and how he literally put a list together for his life of things that he was afraid of, and he faced them. He was afraid of sharks, like everybody should be. He went out, he learned to scuba, he learned to become a master diver, and then he went and swam with sharks. And he faced his fears. He did things that many of us can't afford to do, but he went out of his way to face these fears and realized that fear is really just not understanding fully what is going on. And it's sometimes not having the respect for what's going on. People are fearful of the other side because we've been told by religion, by horror movies, by things of that ilk that this is something to be afraid of.
Absolutely. And you know what? If they didn't do that, those movies wouldn't be as much fun as they were.
Right.
But that was the thing that I had a challenge with when I was a kid, because I saw The Exorcist at 7 years old. I was exposed to some of these horror movies too, and it didn't match my experience. And so part of the thing that makes working with the veil dangerous, and this is a very interesting thing, is that fear. Let's take a reality check, a Ouija board. How many people are afraid of Ouija boards, scared to death of
Right.
that thing? It's a portal to hell, calling in demons. It's just a piece of wood with letters and numbers on it. There's nothing more to it. But if you go on TikTok, you see all those people having a bad experience with the Ouija board, because there's the number one rule I have of interacting with the paranormal: similarities attract and perpetuate. If you believe that Ouija board is going to open a portal to hell, if you're scared to death, if you're going into this with fear, you're going to have a bad time. But if you learn how to set sacred space around you, you get into a calm and centered state, and you reach out with intention, and you have this sacred connection, and you use that Ouija board, you're going to make for a very boring TikTok and a very boring movie, because you're going to have a great time. You're going to have some great communication. It's going to feel good, but nothing scary is going to happen to anybody in any way.
Right, folks. And you have to bear that in mind. Right now, there are so many what are referred to as influencers around the world, people that are trying to get more clicks, get more attention. And that's why the little coded images, which you'll never see on our shows, are always the influencer holding their face with a shocked look. And we share scare sells. It's obvious, but I've always been of the mind that, I don't mind bringing you in with some creepy thoughts and then allaying them as the show progresses, right? Let's put away those fears now that we're getting a better way to research and look at this. And I've also warned my friends and relatives that when I die, I am going to be the ghost that's at your Ouija board party. And when you ask something stupid like who's the next to die, I'm going to pick up that planchette and start pointing it into your forehead, right? And I'm going to make it as scary as I possibly can, because that's what you're asking. You're looking for a scare when you do those things. And people that don't, people that go into it with pure intention and love, they 99 times out of 100 get messages that are that way as well. So is it the ideomotor effect? Are they projecting it themselves? Are they truly a conduit and a channel for these boards? But the fact is, if you walk in a place of fear, fear will always control the outcome of your expectations. And we shouldn't live that way.
Correct, especially when it comes to the paranormal, because you are a paranormal supernatural entity. And like what you were saying, is it the ideomotor effect? Are we projecting it? Are we a conduit? The answer is all of the above. We are doing it all. Whenever we're using a pendulum or a planchette or dowsing rods, 100% of the time, your hand is moving it. It may not feel like it, but 100% of the time it is. And your body is responding to the intuitive information it's receiving and conveying, which is another one of my rules of paranormal connection, is every paranormal experience is co-created. You share your energy into the experience. You get a feedback from it. Even if it's a low-level bottom feeder trying to project fear into you, you're a part of that experience. If it's a higher-level guide giving you wisdom and teachings, you're a part of that experience. You are the veil. You can't be separated from it, and you are co-creating that experience you had. So why not go into it peaceful and connected to the sacred and to a higher mind? Why not?
I have people that attend events with me, and they'll come and they're like, do you think if I bring in my crucifix and my holy water, that keeps me from having an experience? And I said, yeah, I really do, because I think you're setting an intention that me as a ghost, if I walk into the room and I see Dave is open and Kaedrich's clutching his crucifix and holy water, I've only got so much energy to expend to make myself known. Am I going to waste it on a guy who's going to be terrified of this moment, or am I going to try to communicate with somebody? Now, being Ghost Dave, I'm probably going to go after Kaedrich to mess with him, right? But again, you have to take those into account as well, that sometimes what appears to be frightening isn't. It is something playing with you, messing with you, and having just as much fun as they would have in life.
Absolutely. I've seen places where there were just tricksy people in the house, just
Right.
being goofy. Like they told me that things got worse when they called in a spirit cleansing or they called in an exorcism. Well, it's because you turned this thing on. It's happy. It's having fun with you. So have fun back. Have fun with the
Right.
paranormal.
And it doesn't mean that there aren't dark things. It doesn't mean that things don't also show up. But again, if you're focused on that, walking in a place of fear, you become the food. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about in the next hour when Kaedrich returns to talk about shadow work and the paranormal. Don't become a source of the fear. Don't become a source to feed fear. On the other side, with the spirits that are there, the spirits of the land, the spirits of the home, the spirit of life itself, don't be that negative influence, because you will see it affect you. Look at how easy it is to walk into a place and share smiles and positivity and watch how people light up. And if you walk in and drop that negative bomb on them, how quickly their personality changes, right? If the veil was never real, my friends, then maybe neither are the limits that we've placed on our own experiences. Kaedrich reminds us what we call supernatural may just be unacknowledged reality. We'll be back with more right after this. Not every haunting comes from the outside. Some begin deep within. When fear, guilt, or trauma go unhealed, they don't just haunt the mind, they send out signals. And sometimes something answers. In hour 2, Kaedrich Olsen returns to expose the connection between our shadows and the entities they can attract. With wisdom from the whisperers and years of direct encounters, he challenges the fear-based narratives and asks, are some spirits simply feeding off what we won't face? Joining me now on the Coldwell Banker John Schuster Hotline, Kaedrich Olsen. Kaedrich, thank you for staying with me for another hour here.
You bet. Thank you for still having me. I'm loving this.
Shadow work,
Mhm.
the dark side. There's a gentleman by the name of Hanakia Zedek here in Minnesota. And I went to a few of the conferences where I heard Hanakia talk about working in the dark. And I thought, oh, this guy's not my cup of tea. This is dark. This is black magic. This is sinister. And no, what he's talking about is that there is a balance in nature, that you can't just work in a place of light without understanding the dark, without understanding shadow work, without understanding these things. So we use words that sound creepy and appealing and frightening and exciting all at once, but really it's talking about things that are more esoteric, more conceptualized, again, kind of like the veil, right? So talk to me and give an explanation, if you will, Kaedrich, to the audience. Shadow work. What does that mean, and how does it work?
Absolutely. This is why I kind of like to say I work on the darker side of spirituality to help you find your light. Because shadows are the things that we hide about ourselves, the things that we're ashamed of, the things that we're afraid of, the gifts and talents and superpowers that we have that we've been told are evil or bad, that make us a bad person. And so we stuff all of these things down. We refuse to acknowledge them. We won't look at them. We don't want to even say that they exist, but they're still a part of us. They're still influencing us. They're still shaping the things we believe about ourselves, the things we believe about the world, our place in the world, and they are literally creating the world around us, literally creating the reality around us. And when we take that moment to acknowledge those shadows, to recognize them for what they really are, that fear is protecting you, anger is protecting you, that there is something that was happened in your life where you needed to learn to be afraid of whatever it was, that you needed to learn to have these attributes to you, and they saved your butt. They saved your life when you were at that time period. You needed that. And now that you've grown older, now that you're in a different place in your life, they're holding you back. They're keeping you restrained, but they're calling out. They're showing up in little ways, that, like little annoyances, behavioral patterns that keep showing up over and over, sabotage, bad relationships. They just show up as not as a way to ruin your life, but as a means of going, hey, I'm ready to deal with this. I'm ready to acknowledge this pain. I'm ready to acknowledge this hurt. And if we stuff it down, it will find a way to come back up. But shadow work gives us the tools to just sit with that fear, with that anger, with the shame, with those suppressed gifts, to acknowledge what they are, where they came from, what they think they're doing, and what's so wonderful and amazing about you that they had to be there in the first place. And when you bring that light of awareness and acceptance to those shadows, they transmute into something so beneficial and so wonderful for you.
Kaedrich, I'm going to drop a bomb, a knowledge bomb on people right now, and hopefully you'll either tell me I'm on target with this, or you can lambaste me and drag me into the sunlight so I can burn and sparkle like a vampire in Twilight. For people that walk in that place of fear, as we've been talking about tonight, for people that stuff those things down, for people that are fearful of Ouija boards, fearful of black magic, I want all of you to know right now that each and every person listening, and bear with me, hold on, don't just turn off the radio or change the dial because of what I'm about to say. Let me say it, and then let me explain it. But each and every one of you are black magic practitioners. Each one of you are dealing in witchcraft. Not me, Dave. I'm a good Christian. Sure you are. And how many times do you think to yourself, I'm a failure? I'm fat. I'm bald. I'm stupid. I'm not worthy of this job. I'm not worthy of this life. I'm not worthy of the love that I have in my life. Ooh, I'm poetic and didn't even know it, right? That is black magic. Words have power. You are constantly casting spells on yourself and your universe. You are constantly altering the parameters by throwing out dark magic. And then you're surprised when it comes back at you. And you say, oh, see what the universe is doing to me? Yes, I do, because I'm looking at the mirror and I see who's throwing the magic at it. And I can see that the universe is like, oh, okay, you're dumb. You don't deserve this. You don't belong. And it's going to give you these things, which it seems like is what you were talking about with the shadow work. Those are the elements, the part of our shame, the parts of us that we tuck away. But instead of putting them away, putting them in a place of shame, taking them out, acknowledging that they exist, and finding a way to work in concert with both sides of the duality of humanity, the good and the bad, right? That's, to me, where magic lies. And that you're not working just black magic. You work white magic. You work love magic. You work spells constantly. Music is the most powerful magic on the planet because it captures you and it brings you to a time and a place, and it opens you in ways that nothing else can. But what is it? It's rhythmic nature. It's words that are spoken or sung in a way that brings you out of what you're thinking and into a different realm. And we are casting spells, right? I'm curious, Kaedrich, growing up, how many love spells did you send out that we now know as mixtapes? Right.
I've done a couple of those. Absolutely. You betcha. And you're absolutely right. No, I've never put those words to it, that we're black magicians weaving black spells and curses on ourselves. But in essence, that is what it is. Our thoughts, our beliefs, alignment of our energies within us create a causal field that draw people, situations, and circumstances to us based upon that energy that we are generating. Similarities attract and perpetuate. And so if we're telling ourselves, oh, I suck, I'm not worthy at this, I'm terrible, I deserve to have a bad relationship, great. You're doing a great job of manifesting. You're doing wonderful. You're just letting that shadow manifest for you. And you know what we're really good at manifesting? Comfort zones. Even if it's disruptive and chaotic and awful, that's our comfort zone. And sometimes doing that shadow work, the most uncomfortable part is realizing, ooh, I have to put away this disruption. I can set aside that disruption that I've lived with for 30, 40 years. And now I put that aside. Who am I going to be? Who am I really? Because underneath all of those shadows is you, the authentic self. And that's what shadow work is all about, is uncovering what those shadows were really hiding. But then you start to create from that authentic self, and things get so much better because you're willing to look into the darkness. It's amazing stuff.
Amazing and terrifying all at once. But what isn't? Love is amazing and terrifying, right? Challenging yourself is amazing and terrifying. It's okay that these two things coexist, and pushing beyond the limits of your boundaries is where you find magic, is where you find the next evolution of your being. Putting yourself in uncomfortable positions in a way to explore that the glass ceiling above you is no more real than the veil between our world and the next, right?
Absolutely 100% correct.
And you'll push, and then you realize I didn't even feel the glass break, and I'm much higher up than I ever was before.
Absolutely. I've seen it happen so many times with clients and students that are doing their shadow work. They're like, what? Where did this come from? Where did that opportunity happen? How did that happen?
Right.
Well, you cleared that out of the way, made it happen.
When we come back, let's throw another wrinkle into this sheet of life, right? And talk about shadow people. People have encounters with the dark all of the time. What are these beings? I have some thoughts. I'd love Kaedrich's ideas. We'll talk about that when we return to your home for the very best in paranormal programming.
Are you standing at a crossroads in love, life, or purpose? I mean, Mercury is always in retrograde, am I right? But do you crave clarity, a connection to something deeper? Well, welcome to Love and Lotus Tarot, where intuition blooms and guidance flows. Whether you're seeking answers about relationship, career moves, or just a spiritual path, my tarot readings go beyond the surface to help you uncover your truth. Now, here at Love and Lotus Tarot, this just isn't about the cards. It's about connection, empowerment, and rediscovering your magic by illuminating your path. You'll get one-on-one personalized readings with me, either by phone or video or in person if the opportunity is there. And if we do a video session, I'll even record it for you and send you a link. That way you can download it and keep it as kind of a tarot journal. Speaking of journals, this just came out. Yes, I just created your very own bitch book. This is a no-filter dumping ground for all your grievances, angst, and anger that you carry with you throughout the day. Whether it's valid or not, you still have those feelings, so you need to purge them and get it out, and that's where the bitch book comes in. You can find them on Amazon, along with booking a tarot reading with me at lovelotustarot.com.
Dark shadows, right? Something we should be afraid of, but ran for many years on TV because it was so popular. It gave us a look at a different side of life. You could watch Days of Our Lives and General Hospital, which to me are much more terrifying than anything that was ever in the Collins home, right? Barnabas Collins, they were about family and love and exceeding beyond the expectations of what the real world could do. And I watch shows like General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, As the World Turns. They are filled with darkness, true darkness, and betrayal and anger and hatred and resentment and jealousy. Holy cow. Sometimes it's the perspective you give something that makes you feel more comfortable. People, Kaedrich, are seeing shadow figures. And people are like, Dave, isn't that dark? And I say, why? Well, it's dark. It's a dark shadow. And I go, maybe that's legitimately the shadow of the man that's been left behind. That is all that is still remaining of that person. And it might be the shame. It might be the guilt, the base animal instinct of what once was our soul. But how many people are actually, and I think this is so weird, Kaedrich. I ask people in large groups all the time, how many of you have witnessed a shadow person? They raise their hand. How many of you witnessed it in your bedroom at night when you are the most vulnerable? And there'll still be a large group of people with their hands up. And I go, and how many of you, once you get past the shock and awe, my God, there's something in my room, do you just roll over and go back to sleep? And almost all of them keep their hands up. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? Because if it was something truly evil, the last thing you're going to do is roll your back to it and go to sleep. So to me, that proves that we're already in touch with that darkness. And that might just be an element of who you are. Maybe sitting up and confronting it. You're confronting yourself. Do you think that that is an element of who is there? Is that what's standing over you at night is that faction of you you've cleaved off because you touched yourself as a child, or you had impure thoughts about the woman in the third row at church? Those are the little elements of you that are still darting around. You just have to learn how to reincorporate them and accept that it's okay to be human and flawed.
In fact, I'll give you 4 variations on my understanding of shadow people.
Please.
I grew up in a neighborhood full of shadow people, even people who didn't believe in the paranormal, the supernatural. They'd be walking or driving through the neighborhood, and it's like, this is so weird. I swear I see a person standing off to the side. It's like a shadow of a person. I go look at it, and it's gone. I saw 3 or 4 of those on the way here, and I'm like, yeah, that's what these things are. But communicating with them is weird. They don't talk like we do. They don't have a communication style like they do. And it seems that they're just as confused by us as we are of them. So I have to wonder if they aren't some sort of an interdimensional entity or some sort of a crossover with a parallel universe. I don't know yet. I don't know what those are. Another version of shadow people is what I call a shade. It is a false facade that we build up over our entire lifetime, a fake personality, and it tends to be connected with vice, addictions, and that sort of thing. And when a person dies, the soul may go one direction, but the shade goes another direction to get its fix. You know, it'll hang out in dive bars. It'll look for those people that are vulnerable in the ways that this thing wants its energy. And so we will see them as shadow figures. And they are literally trying to get us to have another drink or say this awful thing to that other person or start this conflict because it feeds them. Another form of shadow person is our own projection. I will always hold that human beings are powerfully creative. We don't realize how creative we are. We create thought forms. We create egregores, which are collectively created entities based on belief. And we will project our energies out there to show up as one of these created entities, one of these false entities, so to speak. I mean, they're real, they'll mess with us, but they can be scary as heck sometimes because they're centered around our fear. We created them, and then they will feed off of us. And then the 4th type is I'm the type of person that if you tell me that there's a spirit in your house, banging on the doors, flickering the lights on and off, I'm going to say, well, what did the electrician say about that? You know, what is the airflow? How do you have a draft that might be? I want to know the mundane explanation first. And I will say a vast majority of the time people had a sleep paralysis experience where there was a shadow being in the room. It was because they were in a hypnagogic state and that they were not imagining, but sort of open-eyed dreaming that there was a hag, that there was a demonic entity or something in the room. It wasn't really there. It was just a figment of the dream state that they were in, projecting that there was an entity there. So interestingly enough, in all of these cases, except for the shadow people that are interdimensional, we are the creators of the shadow entities. We are the ones that generate them and feed them.
Yeah, I often wonder if we start to take stock of things in those moments, like when we have dream issues and dream visitations, to have that notebook next to the bed, or maybe even a recorder so that you can just state it quickly. You don't have to worry about turning on a light, fumbling in the dark, waiting for your eyes to adjust and try to write. Just record what that dream meant, what it was. If you see a shadow person on that day, is there something specific that stood out to you? Was there something you did that was maybe, you know, that you did something wrong? You were hurtful, you were negative, you were lustful, you were greedy or jealous. Is that an element of you that's hanging around? When you find the most frightening ones, right, which are the ones with the red eyes glowing at you in the dark, right? Confront that creature right then and there. What are you? Why are you here? And see if you can communicate mentally, verbally, whatever, but know that it does not have power over you, right? Even if
And
it's a manifestation of you, you're still the one creating it.
correct. And in 100% of all of those cases, I have a quick fix for anybody. If you have like one of these negative experiences, if you're feeling like that fear, that creep out feeling, or you're having a shadow experience like that, what I want you to do is I want you to laugh. I want you to genuinely laugh, crinkle your eyes, even if you have to fake laugh until you real laugh, laugh. Because if it is a negative entity, if it is a low level bottom feeder, if it's trying to get fear or negative energy out of you, that laughter energy is going to be a poison to it. It's going to repel it. It's not going to want to stick around. And don't worry, it's not going to think that you're laughing at it and get angry, but it might push back harder because you might have been a good source of food. So laugh even more. But the second thing is, if you misinterpreted what that being was, if you misinterpreted why it's there and you're putting out this laughter energy and you're having a good time, you're going to build a good connection with something that's there that really wants to communicate with you for a beneficial reason. So no matter what, have a good laugh because it resets everything to your benefit.
And we saw how well that worked and how much more power came from laughter when we watched Monsters Inc. So obviously Pixar knows all of the truths, Kaedrich.
They sneak some truths in there. They really do.
Yeah, they do. We got about a minute and a half left together in this segment. Beautiful, insightful concepts. Again, facing our fears, facing that darkness, it can be scary. I often wonder, though, are these also the whisperers? Are they the guardians of us? When we're sleeping, are we at our most vulnerable? That's when we may be soul traveling, astral projecting out of our body. And these beings are there to make sure that we're safe. What do you think of that, Kaedrich? Or am I just being too optimistic?
Not at all. Not at all. We should explore more of the sleep state because there's something that very important that happens when we're in that sleep state. And you're absolutely right. That might be a guardian there to protect us. It might actually be something trying to communicate because we're more open for that one. It might be just somebody wandering by going, wow, what's this energy here? There's a lot of reasons why these things show up. And I will say in my 50 years of working with the paranormal, there's nothing scary out there except for what we create. We're the creators of the scary stuff. They don't naturally exist.
All right. When we come back, let's talk about shadow work. How can we begin to change things within our own lives, facing the darkness, stepping into the darkness in a place of power, not evil, but darkness, and regaining the control over our living force, our shadow force, and bringing it all together. Kaedrich Olsen, our guest. Kaedrich, I feel like I'm doing a disservice if I don't put this out there. How can people follow you, learn more about you, and learn of your teachings?
Great question. My website is kaedrich.com. That's a great place to go. And if you just use my name, Kaedrich, you go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just typing in my name will open all sorts of doors for you. Even go to Google, type in my name, and that's the portal. That's the key that unlocked those doors.
Wait, can you hear it right now? I can hear the keyboards angrily. But Dave, how the hell do you spell Kaedrich? It's KAEDRICH.com. That's KAEDRICH.com. And I will include a link on today's program guide for you as well. Shadow work. Now let's start talking about, in these last couple segments we have together, Kaedrich, how can we become re-empowered? And people that are interested in the paranormal, people that are interested in what comes next, all of this, how do we start working with both sides of the spectrum and do it safely, protecting ourselves from both ends? Because I got to guess giving power to either side can be dangerous.
Right. Well, we begin just by being aware. Just by being aware. If we're out in public and we see somebody with some funky hair and we're suddenly triggered going, oh, why are they doing that? Why do they look like that? Don't they know that they look so stupid? They don't look like the ridiculous. Great. Has nothing to do with them. That's a shadow raising its hand going, hey, take a look at this. If you are at work and your boss shows up and you're suddenly go, oh, I gotta look busy. I gotta do this. I gotta do this because the boss is there. Cool. That's a shadow. If you're with a loved one and they start bringing up something confrontational and you shrink and you hold back and you're like, no, they don't know what they're talking about, but you keep your mouth shut. That's a shadow. And so what you want to do is just recognize it. That's all you have to do is go, oh, look, it has nothing to do with their hair. Why is that bothering me? Oh, why do I get so upset when the boss is around? What's going on with that? Why am I keeping my mouth shut when confronted? Just asking that question of why. And then ask yourself, where did I learn this? Where did that come from? And what does that mean about me? That's the important part, because we may find out that the reason why we laughed at that person or had a hard time with the person with the hair is because maybe we were a kid and we did something funky. We got out the scissors and we cut our hair in a weird way, and mom and dad treated us like crap. And then when we were in school and we hung out with the popular kids or whatever, and then our way of fitting in was to laugh at the people that were different. And we realized, oh, this is just a part of me that says I'm different too, that I can express my uniqueness, that it's okay to be different. And I'm getting upset that they're sharing their uniqueness because I want to share my uniqueness. Is it safe to do so? And then when you realize that, you realize, no, the really cool thing about me is I have these unique qualities that nobody else has in the world. And you would have never discovered that if you didn't let yourself be upset by the person with the funky hair. If you didn't go, well, why is that bugging me? And that's really, in essence, I mean, there's a lot of tools. We go deep sometimes, but that's how it starts, is recognizing those things that irk you, that bug you, and then just being accepting of it. Don't push it down. Don't go, ooh, no, that's awful. I can't be like this. I'll give you a quick example how it shows up in the spiritual communities. People who get angry, as long as you've got an amygdala and a brainstem, which you do, you're going to get angry no matter what. And somebody sometimes angry, but in a lot of these spiritual circles, I'll say, no, that's a lower level emotion. That's a low emotion. You have low vibration. You need to put some more peace, love, and light on it. You have to meditate. It just means you're not doing your spiritual work right. So a person gets angry and then they're suddenly filled with shame, going, oh, I'm not a very spiritual person. I must not be doing this right. I'm bad. I'm this terrible person. I got angry. My answer to that is stop. Your anger's normal. Your anger is setting a boundary. Your anger is telling you why it's important, what your values are, and why these things are so important to protect and save. The real shadow is that shame that showed up for being a typical, normal human being. And when you address that shame, when you recognize that shame, because you want to fit, you don't feel like doing a bad job, but you can actually connect that anger to higher self, to your prefrontal cortex. You can treat it to like a higher level energy, still get angry, but do it in a higher minded way. And then you're like, oh, there's no shame here. I helped people because I got angry. And so that in essence is that shadow work, is recognizing that darkness, accepting it, realizing what it really means about you, and then owning that authenticity of yourself and living it, breathing it, being it.
You know, there's an interesting element when you brought up the fact of seeing somebody and something about their look just irritates you, right? And okay, all right, that's how you, why do you feel that way? What, you know, how is that affecting or impacting you? And I've actually, you know, as a fan of the Monkees, Mike Nesmith made a really interesting comment on one of the episodes at the end, and anybody can appreciate something beautiful. It takes something special to appreciate something ugly. It takes something, and it doesn't mean that you're a better person, but you're looking beyond the veneer of what everybody sees to see more. And if you're having a hard time processing that concept, folks, for men and women alike, I want you to think about that one kind of nerd or dork in class that slipped into one of your dreams. And when you woke up, you couldn't stop thinking of them, and you saw them in a different way. And then think about how many people are like, I can't believe she's with that guy, or that he's with that girl. What does he see in her? He's so good looking. She's so beautiful. What is it? Because that person saw beyond the veneer of what we all see and quickly conceptualize, and saw what stood behind it, right? I don't know, Dave. That sounds kind of hokey to me. Well, that's why the show Beauty and the Beast was so well loved. And seeing beyond the gruff exterior, seeing beyond the ugliness is where, again, the magic lies. Getting past that, challenging and saying, maybe I should get to know this person. Maybe I should sit down and talk to this person and find out what it is about them. And once you get to realize the personality is so beautiful, and think about this, how many of you have done this? You realize there's somebody in your group that may not be as physically appealing, but man, they're a light. They walk in the room and that place burns bright, and the laughter resonates. And there's something about that we have to learn to get over the book and its cover, right? And judging those moments. I don't know. That's what I see in this, is that's what kind of facing the shadow is not pushing it down further because we're ashamed of it, but accepting, oh, that's really dumb. Why do I feel that way? I should open up. And I guess that's a negative way to say, well, it's really dumb to feel that way. But in a way, you have to anchor that. You have to give it a, it's human. I'm obviously naturally having an opposing view of this, but now let's go beyond this. And Kaedrich, you look like you are straight out of, Dragon's Lair and the Vikings TV show. Not a guy I probably would have gone up to and talked to at a bar, not because I'm better than you, but just because you're probably a biker. I'm not a biker. You're probably this. And probably 9 out of 8, 9 out of 8, that'd be a crazy math. But, 9 out of 10 things I'm perceiving of you probably aren't even correct.
Oh yeah, I definitely have an intimidating presence when I'm in the room. That's why I like to also say tongue in cheek when it comes to paranormal things. I tend to be the scariest thing in the room.
Right.
But when we're talking, and I admit I'm shy and introvert, but when talking with people, that veneer sloughs off quickly, and they get to know it's like, oh, you're not big and scary. You just look at it. And I'm like, yeah, I could fit in on the Vikings TV show, but I'm not scary.
And let me take this moment before we go to break. For any of you that meet us in public, any of these paranormal personalities, most of us are introverts. And I try to mention this at every event because I don't want people to prejudge us. But a lot of us feel like, we stay with our little cliques, not because we're better than you, but because inherently shy people do that. And if you actually approach us and talk, it might be a little unnerving for us, but then we start to flourish and we'll talk to you as well. So don't always judge people that they're narcissistic or rude or obnoxious or conceited. It just very well may be they're shy.
Guilty.
Boy, tonight has just turned into an amazing show with you, Kaedrich. I've really enjoyed having this conversation. I hope people are taking something away from this. There is some darkness in the world, and there are scary moments. And it's okay to have those moments. It's okay to be afraid because there's warnings in that. There's something about that teaches us how to proceed and move forward. But it doesn't mean that we have to stop. It just means we have to learn a new way. We have to re-examine how we do the things that we do and accept the things that we accept. You've given us some great tips and hints on the beginning of shadow work for ourselves, right? When you start to work on those elements, will we see the shadow elements of the people around us begin to change as well?
In fact, I love that when that happens. There are two things I see happen when people do shadow work regularly. Is after a while, when they start to recognize their shadow, it's not like, oh, there's another one. It's like, ooh, cool, shadow. Great. What do you have to show me? And then when they see other people projecting their shadow, they're like going, oh, that's your shadow there. That's you trying to project that darkness. That's not mine. I don't need to take that on. And it's really powerful when they start to see it coming from like a parent or a sibling, somebody that would always poke their trigger and make them feel bad or shut them down. And now they're doing their shadow work and they're like, oh, you're doing that again. Cool. Well, I know what you have to work on, but doesn't affect me anymore. It's a wonderful empowerment that people get out of shadow work. It puts them in their power place and it really sets them up for success every step forward in their life. It's amazing.
I've watched discomfort happen in people. Recently I had a person kind of attack me online. And what I did was I posted what they wrote. And then I asked for prayers because obviously this person is hurting. And it was interesting that easily 90% of the people that responded sent prayers and thoughts. And boy, this person is hurting. You can see it. This is not a normal reaction. And it was over something. I was proud. I've lost weight. I'm able to fit in a size 38 jean for the first time in 30 years. And I was excited about that. And I shared that moment. And the person was like, well, F you, it's not like you survived cancer. And I thought, wow, that's really painful and hurtful. Why would you say that? No, you're right. I didn't. Thankfully, that wasn't what brought my weight down or brought me into this. But can't we celebrate the good things? And, I'll pray for you. And I want people to do this. And I had people challenging, oh, you know what? You're just shows what a dirtbag you are to bring this person out. And I thought more about, well, it tells me a lot more about you than it does about me. And part of it is, yes, I'm going to post this because nobody should accept this as a response. We should never accept being attacked and brutally treated as an okay response. But what we can control is how we respond to it. And some people say, well, you should have just ignored it. No, because I don't think that person would learn from that. Maybe what they stopped and were shocked into, wow, that wasn't the response I expected. And I've had people do that over the last 18 years, 19 years of doing this, that then they'll privately write me and go, you're right. I don't know why I attacked you like that. I'm sorry. And thank you for asking for prayers for me. I'm not a prayer person, but I appreciate that. And we get to make those choices, and we get to hold people accountable, but you can do it in a loving and respectful way that shines a light on the scary part, the way that they acted, the attack that they made, but take it away and replace that with, instead of me saying, oh yeah, you fat, incompetent twat, how about instead you can say, man, I'm sorry you're going through this kind of pain, and I'm glad that I'm an easier target for you, and I hope that you'll lash out at me and maybe not somebody close to you. I pray for your soul. I pray for your happiness. I pray for your heart to start feeling better. So am I doing shadow work without even realizing it, Kaedrich?
Actually, you are, because you're calling out, you're bringing awareness to the shadow, and then you're bringing, in a sense, that light of acceptance. That here, I know what you're saying, I hear what you're saying, and I feel your pain, and I hope that goes away. I mean, we can even do this in the moment. If somebody comes up to us and says something rude or attacking to us, a great way to diffuse that is like, oh, what do you mean by that? Can you help explain that more? And that right there, maybe they didn't even realize they were doing it. So many people react and act without even thinking or awareness of it. And when we ask for that explanation, right there, we're asking for light. We're bringing that light in, and it catches them off guard. And then maybe they will explain it better. And maybe they got a good point. Maybe they're not acting from a shadow. Maybe they're actually upset about something legitimate. You know, we all make mistakes. We all have that happen, and it's okay to hold us accountable. You know, it's okay to tell me if I mess up, and I want that enlightenment. But if they are coming from a shadow place, this brings that light, and I'm like, so yeah, you are doing a form of shadow work by doing that. Absolutely.
It makes me feel better about the world around me. And it's easy right now because we live in a cynical time, and we live in a time of uncertainty. What we can choose is how we respond to the things that take place in our lives. And listen, I'm still fighting a battle, man. Depression, anxiety still get a hold of me, Kaedrich, right? And there are days I feel like I'm just not worthy to be here. But I also feel like that's not a legacy I want to leave behind. I don't want people to realize that when things get tough, you can check out. Because every time I've pushed past that feeling, something pretty remarkable happens. And you might not see it all the time because you're expecting butterflies and millions of dollars, but maybe it was meeting a new friend. Maybe it was finding, the perfect outfit for this upcoming event. Maybe it's just something simple, but it was a win. And we have to start acknowledging those moments.
Absolutely. And that's one of the key components of shadow work too, is not only engaging in the darkness and learning from the darkness, but also embracing the stuff that is just full blown in the light. What are your accomplishments? What are your values? What are you good at? What are you successful with? What are the things in your life that is going so well? And that kind of brings us all the way back around to some of this work that we've been talking about. That if we look at our life around us and we're like, oh, I've got the bills paid, I've got all this taken care of, but there's only $20 left. This just is terrible. Or we can go, look, I've got all this taken care of. The foods, the bills are paid, and I got $20 left after that. How cool is that? And that's just that shadow shifting, and you get more of what you put out into the world. And that's an important part of doing shadow work, is to shift that for you.
And this is all tied to the paranormal, folks, because again, we have to start to accept that these strange occurrences, these things around us are not paranormal. They're not above the normal. They're part of our life, right? They're like Bigfoot is a cryptozoological creature until we capture one. And then it will be a zoological creature. So what we're looking at in life is that you have to move forward, accept these different elements, see the magic in the things around you, have those moments. Don't walk in a place of fear, because that's when you'll see the glimmering light. You'll see that the vampire is not a threat, that it is the sparkly, beautiful vampire in the sunlight, right, of twilight. And I know I just made a lot of people cringe with that, but It's why you should look at things in different ways. And I hope that you'll continue to tune into a show like this and learn more.